Hi everyone, it's Pat Michaud here, and I am coming to you today on a very important topic, or with a very important topic. And it was interesting because I had my plans all laid out for the week. I knew exactly what I wanted to talk about today and on Friday, because I do these live feeds every Monday and Friday. And this past weekend, I had a few experiences that caused me to change my mind on the topic for today. So it's good to be flexible, right? It's good to be flexible. So I had a few different experiences, one of which was on Saturday. I always have my grocery list, and I plan my menu for the week for food, and actually I look at my schedule and plan exercise. I plan everything for the week. And I went into the grocery store where I often just kind of browse around and look for a different type of bouquet of flowers for myself for the week, one for my dining room, one for my office. And so I got these beautiful tulips. Can you see those back there? Right there behind me. Those beautiful tulips. I love tulips. They remind me of spring. I love all the different colors. And so I stand around there and I poke around and look for what would really make me happy in the moment. And so I got myself some flowers. And then there was another incident that happened. And I was with a friend. We were driving in one end of the city. She lives in the other. I live in the middle. And we needed to make a stop for her to pick up a piece of business equipment. And so I waited in the car. She went in to get this and came back out. And she said, this is really embarrassing, but my cards aren't working for me to pay for this. So rather than me run all the way home and come all the way back, would you be able to come in, use one of your credit cards and help me out with this, with the payment? It was in excess of $1,000. So I know it's not always an easy ask, but hey, I can always say no, right? But I could do it, and I was happy to do it for a number of reasons. One, that I could. Number two, for me, the whole concept of money has nothing to do with my self-image, my sense of self-worth, none of that. And so I started thinking about these two incidents in particular, and I knew I wanted to come to you today with the message about the flowers, about money, and about mindset. And in particular, because I'm often asked in the beginning, how did I shift my thinking when I moved here from the West Coast? And I came here a number of years ago with no business, no clients, no contacts, no money, no nothing. How did I shift my thinking from the scarcity to abundance? How did I shift my thinking to step into a business that was wealthy, a business that was profitable? And it dawned on me that I wanted to really share three, because I always work in threes. I wanted to share three and give you three of the best simple tips and steps that I took to shift my thinking when it comes to buying myself flowers at a time when cash flow was not abundant, to get into the mindset of working with money and not letting the fact that I had none at the time impact or influence who I believed myself to be in the business market. So one of the first things that I did was, as many of you know, I hired a high-level marketing coach in New York, and I really credit her for the habit of getting those beautiful flowers every week. Having fresh flowers in your office, in your home, and listen, sometimes I would just pick out one rose and put it in a pretty vase and put it on my desk. Having fresh flowers around you shifts the energy. It shifts the way you think. It shifts your environment. I grew up in a home where fresh flowers were never around. My dad never brought my mom flowers. There were 7 kids. We lived in the military, on the military bases. It was not part of our lifestyle. And I'll tell you, it was not part of my conditioning. And I had the mindset, I had the core belief that people who had fresh flowers in their office were rich. And I just wasn't one of them. Well, I've got to tell you, when you change the way you think about something, and then you change the way you act, you change your performance and the results. So I credit Fabienne Fredrickson, who was my very first marketing coach, because she modeled that to me. She often showed pictures, or she would have video clips, and there were always fresh flowers around her. And I started thinking, and she coached me on the fact that You want to be a millionaire business coach, then you need to act like one. And it was at that point I shifted my thinking and I developed the habit every Saturday of going to get myself fresh flowers. It made a huge difference. Now it's a small thing, right? So I'm not asking you to go take leaps and bounds off giant buildings. Go buy yourself a very small bouquet of fresh flowers and watch the difference in your energy, how you feel, and just looking around your environment as you work every day to grow your business. So that was fascinating to me. The second thing happened. I was introduced to a phenomenal financial planner here. And I've talked to you before about having a solid financial team. So I had an amazing financial planner, Eva Main with Sun Life Financial here in London. I give her a shout out. She's retired now. But I'll tell you, back then, a few years ago, when I started the business again, and she was recommended to me. And I remember going to my first meeting saying, I'm not even sure why I'm here. I have no money. And she said, that's the best time for you to be here. And she sat with me and she taught me to shift my thinking around money and to start looking at it as a tool. I wasn't brought up to think about money that way. I grew up in isolated military bases. There were 7 kids. We didn't have money. She said, start looking at it as a tool. And when you look at your toolkit in business, you have a number of tools. You've got your iPhone. You've got your laptop. You've got, at the time we had fax machines. And she said, money belongs in one of those slots in your toolkit. And that's the way you need to look at it. And so we talked about a few ways right back in the beginning of how to think about money and how to use money. Money needs to be touched. Money needs to move. Money is energy. So those two people made a huge difference when it came to shifting my thinking around money, both the flowers and with respect to the handling of money. So let me give you the 3 things that I did right out of the gate that really moved me right along, as I call on the success track. I've talked to you about this before, and I'm using an American one this time. One thing is to take a $20 bill. Now, I have 20 in American and 20 in Canadian because I travel to the U.S. a lot. Make sure you have a minimum $20 bill in your wallet. And always keep it there. Do not touch it. Do not touch it. And that way, every time you open your purse or you open your wallet, you know, and you will say to yourself, I always have money. I always have money. And you'll start to think in terms of flow and abundance. So get a crisp bill and put it in your wallet and do not touch it, because then you will always have money. The other thing that I did right in the beginning, and I couldn't believe that I dug this out here this morning. This was my payroll jar. It's a pretty jar. I got a gift in it, but you can see it's Pat's Pay. And here's one of the first habits that I started right away, and this was thanks to my financial planner. Every week, now I track my sales every week. Now some of you aren't making sales every week because you're not as hungry as I was. I was hungry when I moved here. I hit the phones. I made sales calls, and I made sales. And I would pay myself every week, and that's a piece that Eva taught me. This is a loonie. I'm coming from Canada. This is a $1 bill equivalent. It's a loonie. I took a pretty jar marked Pat's Pay. I took my loonie, and this went into this every week. I paid myself. That was a huge mindset step because, and again, this was on the desk by the flowers, because when you work hard and you work consistently and you persist in growing your business, you deserve to be paid first before the bills. Now, I grew up in a military family where you pay your bills, but what Eva taught me was you pay yourself first, even a loonie. So that loonie would go into that jar, and I love to hear the sound, as it dropped into the jar. I paid myself first. That does a lot for your self-esteem, your sense of self-worth, your sense of self-image. Now, the third strategy, and this I credit my dad with, because I can remember in the military, Fridays was payday. The military would get paid at noon. All the military would go out to the mess, the bar, after work and have a beer. And then Dad would come home, and they had a check in those days. And my parents sat down, and this was their strategy. This was their system. You need to have systems in business. I used this system when I moved here, and I credit my dad to it. So these are envelopes, and these were my envelopes that every month I budgeted. So one envelope, once I created my budget, would have gas written on it. So here was my list, right? So one envelope was marked gas with a certain amount, and the cash would go in the envelope. Then there was another envelope for food, and the cash, as budgeted, was go into the envelope. There was an envelope for clothing. There was an envelope for entertainment. There was an envelope. See how it went? These were my living expenses, and the training that this was for me was that I worked with cash. I worked with cash. So whether it's the cash in the wallet, whether it is the loonie to pay myself, or whether it was the envelope system, I worked in cash. So using cash and recognizing that, for example, when the food envelope was empty, it was empty, people. I did not use credit. I just got very creative with the ramen noodles, the peanut butter, you know what I'm talking about. And so I worked with cash, and I attribute these 3 strategies and the shift in my thinking to how I have taken my business from 0 to almost $1 million in no time flat, in less than 6 years. Now, if I can do this, you can do this. You know I believe in simple strategies. That's the way I function. I focus on 3s. So a refresher, shift your thinking, go get yourself some fresh flowers, put them on your desk, and create a beautiful, happy environment. Get yourself a pay jar. And make sure you pay yourself first and start with the loonie, because the bottom line is money needs to flow. It's got to flow, and it should flow to you first based on your hard work. And then the last piece is the envelope system. So those were the 3 strategies. Those were my success strategies. If I can do it, you can do it. You need to start today. So plan your budget, be good to yourself, think in terms of abundance, and go make that business grow. And look at money as a tool, and it's just part of your toolkit. This is not a reflection on who you are at all. Money is not. Money is a tool in your toolkit. So shift your thinking around that. And today, go make some money and set up these 3 systems and let me know how it goes for you. That's it. I'll be back with more tips to help you grow your business based on the simple success steps that I've used. Bye for now, everyone.